Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the next episode of the Double Feature Podcast. And returning is a proper intro this time.
Yay!
We heard your complaints, but
Yes, you did. I was so when you were doing that, then I was so proud. I was like, he got it right finally. Again, back on form, back on form.
back on form indeed. And it's the last episode of the year. It's the last episode of 2024.
Yes, it is.
It is an interesting one. Obviously, it's winter. We're going to have to discuss some Christmas films. And stay tuned for today's spotlight. We're going to be discussing, if you hadn't guessed from the thumbnail, Gladiator II, the kind of big epic of the season. But first of all, as usual.
Sorry, I thought we were talking about Moana too.
No, thankfully not. No, but
Yeah, I can't be. I've not seen Moana 2. Don't have any plans to. It just looks like mediocreness. That's what it looks like to me.
It's not quite a Doom Syndicate situation, but
No.
But
I like the first one. I really like the first Moana as well. To be fair.
I watched the first one. I never really got that into it. I don't know why. It didn't really click.
I quite like the first one, to be fair. But anyway, it sounds like current movie news, I guess, that for our part one. I have a certain film that I want to talk about that I was quite dismissive of last episode. That I thought, I might go and see it. I might not if I feel like it. Then the reviews started coming out for it, and oh god, like everyone was raving about it. And I was like, oh right, okay, I'll go check this out as a theatre kid. And even though I've never seen the stage show, I thought I've seen the original Wizard of Oz. I'll go check out Wicked, or Wicked Part 1, because it is technically a Part 1, because it only covers like the first act of the show, and the second Part 2 movie will come out next year that will explore like the second act of the show. And I kind of wish we made this episode about Wicked, because this was amazing, legit.
Yeah, okay.
It was legit. Yeah, it was legit really, really good. And as I said, like, I've never seen the stage show, as I just mentioned, so I was kind of going into it blind. I was kind of like kind of going into it blind, but I was amazed with it. It just kind of, it knows what it wants to do, kind of gives the people what they want, like caters to its audience, like really just goes all out. It's bombastic, it's colourful, the musical numbers are all, like vocally everyone's amazing, and the choreography is great, and the production design of Oz, you know, all the different settings and landscapes and whatnot, it's so vibrant and imaginative, and it's so funky, and the story, it's really great. It's almost like, if you want like a comparison, it's almost like the Revenge of the Sith of the Oz universe, in a sense.
That is an interesting.
Because in a sense, because what I mean by that is obviously it explores like the sort of the backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West, or Elphaba as she's called, and then you've got, you know, the Good Witch Glinda, and it explores them when they were younger and they were friends who ultimately fell apart. A bit like, you know, kind of like an Obi-Wan Anakin sort of thing.
Okay.
That's where I get the Revenge of the Sith comparison. And you see it more from like Elphaba's perspective, you know, it's like kind of from the villain's perspective and whatnot, and it provides something, you know, interesting, and there's some interesting ideas and whatnot, and the character stuff is really compelling, and the acting from the two leads. So you have Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, she's fantastic, but the one that really surprised me was Ariana Grande as Glinda. I mean, obviously, like, great singer, you know, but obviously she's more known as a pop star, and not as much as an actress as she. But oh my god, she was legit fantastic in it, and they should get some awards recognition. I did not expect to be saying that, but they really should for their performances, because they were bloody amazing.
Based off what I've heard, I think it's probably going to get awards. I haven't seen it.
It better do.
I haven't seen it, so see, that wouldn't have been able to do as a spotlight today. I never actually saw The Wizard of Oz, so...
Well, the original 30s film, you've never seen
Nope.
it?
Never seen it.
Oh, crikey. To be fair, The Wizard of Oz was like one of the earliest films that I ever remember watching when I was like 5 years old.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those, like, yeah, like because it was also the very first like school play that I ever did when I was like, when I was about 5 years old. I remember very vividly. I was like one of the Oz Munchkins in it.
No, I think I'll check this one out if it's as good as you say it is.
Yeah, I didn't expect a lot from it. I think because I'd never seen the stage show, I was like, will I have that kind of emotional connection? But I think going into it blind, because I know we're both quite passionate about like theatre and musicals and such. So going with it with an open mind, if you want to check it, I'd highly recommend it. And it's a great sort of, I know it's not a Christmas film obviously, but I think it kind of suits being released in the festive period, because it is a kind of, big, colourful, bombastic film that is just like a bit of a Christmas treat, a bit like how Wonka was for last Christmas. Remember the Wonka film with Timothée Chalamet, if you remember that?
It. I haven't seen it. It's in my recorder. It's in my recordings actually on my TV. I might watch it at some point soon.
Yeah.
But
But that was again another sort of musical film, another light-hearted family film where it was a nice sort of like Christmas treat in a sense, and that's what I think Wicked kind of is this year. But I was massively impressed with it.
is Wicked the one with that song "Defying Gravity"?
Yes, that's the final song in Act One, and in the first film, it's the final song of the film. And holy shit, that sequence is amazing.
So the closest I've gotten to watching Wicked was watching Batman sing "Defying Gravity" on Britain's Got Talent last year. It was truly something.
What? So instead of having a soprano sing it, you have a bass singer in Batman sing "Defying Gravity." I hope you're happy now, Joker.
If you haven't seen it, I'll send you the video later. But it's pretty good actually. But no, I'll check Wicked out once it comes on TV though, because I've not been able to get out to the cinema much lately with work and whatever. But But yeah, once it comes out on like TV, I'll give that a watch then. If it's as good as you say it is, I'll watch part 2 as well. It's
that's it. Like, I mean, a lot of people. I think if you don't like musicals, you won't really be a fan. But I know you are because that's how we meet. That's how we met. I know you enjoy musicals and you enjoy theatre and whatnot. So
yeah.
you'll I reckon you'll enjoy it. To be fair.
Yeah, probably will. But so I'll let you know when I've seen it. It might, and then we'll probably discuss it whenever I have seen it.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah. Anything? What else? Have you got anything for part 1?
I've got one thing to offer, and then you can just take the baton and run the rest of part 1. My offering isn't very good though. So recently a movie came out on Paramount called Dear Santa. The premise sounds like it could be very interesting. Basically, a kid writes a letter to Santa, but he misspells Santa as Satan, and and so Jack Black playing Satan pops up and tries to convince the kid that he is Santa, and offers the kid 3 wishes. But upon the 3rd wish, he takes the kid's soul. Is the gist of it. Kind of an evil genie thing if you think about it, but ultimately I think the premise was interesting, but I don't think the execution necessarily was. Like, I know the problem with kid actors is sometimes they're not necessarily the most entertaining. Sometimes they're a bit annoying, etc. And it's quite. I think
the trouble you can sometimes have with the child actors is that they sometimes that they don't. Obviously, just how they are as kids, they don't have like the life experience. They don't have like that kind of gravitas.
Yeah.
Often, and it's really hard for them to sell a lot of the emotional stuff because they don't have that experience. So it can be tricky to get them to sell that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but ultimately, like I can see why this film went straight to Paramount because it wasn't the best written or anything, but like. A weird cameo with Ben Stiller as the devil was quite funny, but
Ben Stiller as the devil.
But overall, it was just. I think it's going to be relatively forgettable once like another month has passed and we'll be like, what was that film again? But I felt like there was definitely the grounds for a good movie there, but they didn't necessarily hit all of it. And that's all I've got for part 1. So you could just take the baton.
Not even any. You haven't got any Amazon originals starring John Cena.
Sorry to disappoint.
Or any. Have you got any of the Die Hard films? What is it?
No more Die Hard.
What is it? Die Hard 3.
No, I've got nothing else from John Cena or Kevin Hart to discuss right now.
Oh, that's a shame. I've got something even better here, right?
Is it Nicolas Cage?
No, it's Wallace and Gromit.
Fair play.
I mean, so it's slightly pivoting to TV, but it's the British TV Christmas lineup this year, which is absolutely stacked for the first time in donkey's years. So we've got, obviously, the Doctor Who Christmas special, we've got Gavin and Stacey, the finale, and the main event for me is we've got, for the first time in 16 years, we've got the new Wallace and Gromit film, Vengeance Most Foul, which is going to be broadcast on Christmas Day in the UK, and I think internationally, I think it's going to go on Netflix, I think. But yeah, I'm so buzzing for this because it's like I absolutely adore, as a Brit, I adore Wallace and Gromit. Like, you can't not love Wallace and Gromit. It's just so damn cool, and it's the first time we've had one of their films in 16 years. I think that the only thing I was kind of nervous about is because the actor who voiced Wallace, Peter Sellers, he passed away a few years ago now. So this is like the first of the Wallace and Gromit films that they're doing without him voicing Wallace. So that's like a little bit of I think, a worry. But they have a lot of the creative team, like Nick Park, who's kind of he directs a lot of them. He basically created Wallace and Gromit, and he's kind of like the head honcho at Aardman, like creatively. So he's involved, so that's good. And they're also bringing back the you've seen The Wrong Trousers, haven't you? You know, the penguin in the wrong trousers.
I don't actually remember which ones I've seen. I saw a few Wallace and Gromit things when I was really young, but I
Yeah,
never really watched that much of it. So
I do. I rewatch it quite a lot. But do you remember the evil penguin?
maybe vaguely.
Yeah, but no, he's from The Wrong Trousers, and they're bringing him back. So screw like Gladiator 2 or bloody any other legacy sequel that has come out this year. Like, screw, this is the legacy sequel that we want. Okay.
Bro's gonna throw Beetlejuice out the window that quickly.
I know I am. Yeah, screw Beetlejuice, or Gladiator 2, or Twisters, because that's technically a legacy sequel, or what else has come out? I can't think, but screw all the other legacy sequels. Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, screw that. Wallace and Gromit, Venice Most Foul. This is the legacy sequel that we have wanted. This is what the people want.
Well, I do hope you enjoy it.
I bloody hope so. It's airing straight after Doctor Who, so that is a double bill in the making. To be fair.
Oh wow, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
we might be able to find some space next episode for you to review those briefly.
Maybe. I mean, I will definitely do a Doctor Who review because I do them on my own channel and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to this one because it's like the thing is with this one because of the recent season, it was really disappointing with all the lore stuff. This one doesn't seem to be focused on any of that. I think people are just giving up, trying to speculate on, which classic Who character is coming back. And it's like, we just want some fun Doctor Who, And this one looks pretty fun. It's got some fun concepts, like a sort of Christmas hotel kind of throughout time. And Nicola Coughlan from Dairy Girls is going to be in it, so I'm looking forward to that. But, yeah. Speaking of legacy sequels, though, from one to another, we've got a trailer for another sort of legacy sequel kind of thing, but the trailer looks really good. It's for 28 Years Later, which is the sequel to the iconic zombie film 28 Days Later, which came out back in the early noughties. Cillian Murphy was in it. Another Doctor Who alumni, Christopher Eccleston, he was in that original 28 Days film. Danny Boyle's back to direct. Alex Garland, who I think wrote it, and he's done a lot of stuff like Ex Machina. He did Civil War this year. He's back to write it, I think. And the trailer for it is really good. It's not giving away all the plot. It's just a great vibes trailer. It has that unsettling atmosphere. It just shows you little snippets of the film and whatnot, and it just looks really, really cool. And I really want to watch 28 Days Later because it's meant to be. It's a classic sort of British horror film, and a great iconic zombie film and whatnot. And I do love Danny Boyle as a filmmaker. Trainspotting is fantastic, and I want to just check out more of his work. Plus, he's got my name, so it's I like that. But no, I'm really looking forward to 28 Years Later and whatnot. And I mean, the scariest part of it was not the zombies, but the fact that they had the Teletubbies on in the TV in that trailer. Yeah, the trailer starts off with like some people watching the Teletubbies on the TV.
Wow.
That's the true horror. That's the true horror.
Indeed.
We need like a Willy's Wonderland film, but with the Teletubbies instead.
Nicolas
Studios.
Cage beats up the Teletubbies.
I want to see that. I so want to see that. I so want to see that now.
We cooked with this one.
We cooked. Nicolas Cage starts a band, and like the Teletubbies are like the backup singers.
Oh man.
What is this episode? Okay, so that's all the fun stuff for part one that I've got. Now let's talk about Gladiator 2, I guess. I could go on about talking about Nick Cage and the Teletubbies and Wicked and Wallace and Gromit, but no, we've got to talk about Gladiator 2 now.
How did we get here?
I don't know. We walked.
How did we get from Wicked to Nick Cage and the Teletubbies?
And I genuinely don't know, but
This is a trip. This is what you're here to listen for, though. This is what the viewers want.
this is what the people. It's not just the tagline for this episode. Give the people what they want. You know.
This is what you want. The absolute insanity.
To quote Jokey, you get what you effing deserve. Anyway, should we talk about Gladiator 2 now? Because I think we're gonna be yeah. I don't know what's going on. We're just shooting the shit here.
Yeah, we're losing the plot a bit. Let's get back on track. We're on Gladiator 2. So I watched this on Thursday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which obviously for viewers it's gonna be a bit later. That's Thursday, the 12th of December that I watched it on. And,
I watched it like about when it was like mid-November it came out. I watched it, I think pretty much the weekend it came out. Basically, the reason I watched it as soon as it did because I actually watched it with my parents, and for them, the original Gladiator from 2000, it's one of their favourite films. They absolutely adore that film, and they're not big cinephiles like me or you, but they love that first Gladiator film. It's one of their favourites, and they were really excited for this film. So they wanted to see it as soon as, and I thought I'd go along with them and check it out. Because I do, even though like big historical epics, they're not usually my sort of thing. I do love the first Gladiator. I think it's a really fantastic film and it's a really rich film. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of themes and great compelling characters and whatnot. So I was like, I'll give it a shot, but I was kind of also thinking the first Gladiator feels very like a very open and shut story. It's like, does it need a sequel? And I still have that question after watching it. Although I will say, I do think Gladiator 2 is a good film, a well-made film. Why is it a sequel, though, to Gladiator? That's what I'm asking, though. And that's what we'll maybe find out. But, yeah, that's kind of my overall sort of feelings towards it.
Okay, interesting. So the reason I had to wait till Thursday was I wanted to see it, parents wanted to see it, my nan wanted to see it. We had to find a time all four of us could go, as well as the fact that obviously I've been working insane overtime lately, so I've not had time for cinema most days, but made it work this time, and we went to see it, and ultimately I'm just going to get probably the hot take part out the way with here. I actually preferred this movie over the first one. Let's just get it out there.
Oh my God.
Preferred this movie. we can't agree on anything, can we?
We can't. We can agree on Nick Cage and the Teletubbies being epic, though. We can agree on that.
We can agree on that, and we can agree on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's about as far as it'll go.
But
the thing is, I
preferred the sequel on this one. I didn't.
I can
find
kind
the
of see
first
that.
one like. It's just like the first one. I would never really found myself that invested in the first movie, but this one I think there was a lot more layers to the plot and everything that I really liked. Just a heads up for the listeners. This is obviously, as usual, we're going into spoilers from here on. So just if you haven't seen it, skip to part 3. I've started putting timestamps in the description, so skip to part 3 if you don't want the spoilers. But yeah, okay. With that out of the way, I preferred like the plot on this one. There are a lot more layers to it, but I think what really shines me is I like the whole arc of Denzel Washington's character in this. Like that really carries it.
I don't know. I look, he's a phenomenal actor and he gives a great performance. But if I'm honest, I feel like that's kind of one of the faults of it. I think I might have missed something, but I feel like with his character, because he kind of like does a bit of a 180 to evil, like to pure evil towards the end of the film, and it kind of felt to me a bit sort of sudden. It's like, well, hang on, did I miss something? So I don't know if that's the case, but to me it just felt a bit. I don't know. It just felt quite sudden, and I was like, hang on, why is he doing this now?
I feel like the build-up was always there, and throughout they were always planting the kind of seeds of his plan.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that he was like a pure-hearted goody throughout the first half. I'm not saying that because obviously he was very morally pretty grey at best. But I know just the way that he kind of shifts to all of us. It just felt to me very sudden, like he just wants the power now, and he's going out and getting the power from the emperors and whatnot. I don't know. Something about that just kind of felt a bit jarring to me. I don't know. I didn't fully feel it. But it might have been the fact that I missed something. I don't know. But I don't know. Yeah.
I found something interesting as well with the film is, there's this one scene where one of the emperors appoints his monkey as like a high up official role in his reign.
Yeah.
So that's that was based off of the theory that there was a Roman emperor called Caligula who tried to appoint his horse as a general or something like that, or as a cabinet member. As to whether he succeeded in appointing a horse with power was is in the air, but I think that was based off
Bit of
of
an
that.
urban legend. Bit of an urban legend.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure, but I thought it was quite interesting that they tried to nod to that because a lot of what goes on in this movie is based off of certain historical events, and the two emperors were real people and everything as well. So there's
Yeah.
uh, pretty sure Denzel's character was a real person as well. So there's a lot of like historical like parallels, but not like perfect matches or anything. But it's just like there's
Yeah,
inspiration there.
I mean, obviously, I don't expect the film to be 100% historical accurate because that's kind of boring, you know.
Yeah,
Not boring, but like, you know, the film should definitely, yeah, obviously take from history, but you can play around with it. You can to make it more like to make it into more of a narrative, you know, entertainment. You will,
yeah.
you know, you'll play around with it and you'll sort of tweak bits of history. But you know, I mean that's fair enough. I mean, I didn't really know all of that sort of stuff. I kind of went into it as a Gladiator II. I'm more looking at it as a film and less of like a piece of history because it's not a because it's like more ancient history. It's not kind of my expertise really. Like I'm really not that knowledgeable on that kind of period of history.
It's not particularly my expertise either. I just know really random things sometimes, like the
No.
horse thing. But
Might come in, it'll come in handy for a pub quiz one day, you know.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've
Yeah,
watched so many game shows as a kid, so I have just like the
yeah,
most
yeah,
random pieces of knowledge just sitting in the back memories, waiting to
yeah.
come out.
Actually, in terms of those emperor characters, if we talk about some of the characters and whatnot, what do we think of the emperors, the duo of emperors as characters? Because there's one of them's from I know from Stranger Things,
Oh
Joseph
yeah,
Quinn, I
one of
think.
them is Eddie from Stranger Things. Yeah, and he was
Yeah.
in Quiet Place Day One as well.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know.
I.
I kind of
What do you
like the
think of them?
characters, but I feel like there's like I feel like I like the one that Eddie from Stranger Things plays. I think he's got kind of the right balance between crazy and not crazy, that and a little bit silly that just kind of works. I think the other ones maybe a little too silly in a way, if you get me.
Yeah,
But
I think overall, I think they do lean too much into being kind of because I get the idea of that they are that these emperors who have all this power, they are ultimately just like kind of spoiled, entitled, you know, whiny brats. Kind of. I
yeah,
get there's meant to be like an irony, like a juxtaposition of that. You know, people who hold this power are just you know spoiled little brats. But I think they do lean too much into the silliness. I think Joaquin Phoenix's character, who played the villain in the first film, I think he strikes a. I adore him as the villain in that first film, and I will be probably comparing a lot to the first film, but as a sequel, that's kind of expected, you know.
yeah,
But in
yeah. I mean
terms of,
that is going to happen.
I think, would you agree that Joaquin Phoenix is the better antagonist? Would you agree
Oh
with
yeah,
that?
definitely. I think
Yeah,
out of everything in the first film, I think Joaquin Phoenix is probably the best thing about the first film, to be honest, for me. So yeah, I think in terms of the emperors in the first film and second film, Joaquin sweeps easily.
yeah,
I quite liked in this one though that this one had a lot of really nice visual scenes. Like there's a scene near the start where the Roman ships are attacking. And it's just I feel like that's just a really nice scene visually. The whole fight that's going on there. Like I quite liked it. I like Pedro. I like Pedro Pascal in the movie. I think he's quite good. I liked the like little. I mean, it's quite an early twist, really, but I like the kind of twist that he doesn't really want to be doing all this conquering of other lands anymore, and he kind of wants to take on the emperors. But for the most part, the main character doesn't know that who he thinks is the enemy is actually the enemy of the emperors, who's the real enemy. So there's some interesting dynamics there that I quite liked.
so I think the whole Pedro Pascal part of the film, I think he was probably my favorite character. I think because I think I'll get onto this in a second, but I think he was the one that I could draw the least comparisons to in terms of like from the first one. I did like what you mentioned, that kind of mini twist of like he doesn't really want to be, you know, fighting for the army. He wants to kind of lead a different life, and there's that kind of like duality with him. That kind of and I did like those layers to him, and he was the for me the most interesting character. And spoilers, I kind of wish he didn't die as early as he did. I feel like that should have been the climax of the film. And maybe when the point I made about the whole Denzel Washington character, the kind of twist where he kind of really takes all the power and whatnot, it kind of felt like a distraction away from that. It kind of felt like adding extra bits onto it that kind of, I don't know, it just felt a bit, it didn't feel as impactful as when Pascal's character got killed off. I don't know. But he was definitely my favourite character in the film.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the better characters. I really like how they did his whole thing and how they kind of build up to this fight between him and the main character.
And
But
Lucius, yeah,
obviously,
Paul Mescal. Paul Mescal's very good in it, but
yeah,
yeah.
it's overall, I would say I really enjoyed this film. It is a long film, but it didn't feel long to me, which is usually a good sign. Like,
I will give it that. It definitely doesn't feel as long as it was. I will give it that. It's well paced, I'd say, for the most part. I think
yeah,
maybe,
like
as I said, the
some
ending kind of drags on
films.
a bit with the Denzel Washington character, his kind of sudden twist of like wanting the power and whatnot. But yeah, overall, I think it is a very good film. It's very well made. And you mentioned about sort of the army scenes, the very, how like the kind of visual, it looks really good. And I think that's something Ridley Scott as a filmmaker, he's really great at. He's a great visual storyteller. You got to look at films like just like Alien or Blade Runner. Very these out there sci-fi films, or something like Thelma and Louise, which is more contemporary set because like from the early '90s and whatnot. He tells the story visually really well, and then in these historical epics like the Gladiator films, or like just any of the other, because he's done a lot of historical films in his. I mean, his very first film was a film called The Duelists, which was again another historical film. I think sort of Napoleonic era. But he's a really great visual filmmaker. He tells a story visually, and as a filmmaker for like in his 80s, the battle scenes in the film I think are really great in this film. The action sequences are really great in this film, and they were very entertaining. As I said in the first film, are you not entertained? No, I was entertained. I definitely was, but I think if this film were just its own stand-about historical epic blockbuster drama, I would probably enjoy it and kind of I just enjoy it. But I think the little niggle in the back of my mind is that why is this a Gladiator sequel? Because I'm drawing so many comparisons. Even though you've got loads of different characters from the first one. You've only got like returning. You've got Connie Nielsen, who was Lucius's mother, and Russell Crowe, Maximus's wife. You've got her returning, and I thought she was quite good. And you've also got Derek Jacobi, who was one of the senators. He makes a reappearance again in this film. So you've not got many returning elements from the first film, but it also feels like it's trying to. There's a lot of the plot beats from the first film that they're trying to ape, and a lot of the character archetypes they're trying to ape from that first film, and it just doesn't feel as, for me, doesn't feel as nuanced. I don't know, and I was constantly thinking about the first film in that sort of way, and it doesn't. It's like. It doesn't justify why it's a Gladiator sequel. Why is it continuing this story? It feels simultaneously too distant from the first film, but also trying to just ape the first film. It feels it's very odd for me in that as a sequel. It's very odd for me, but as a film, I think it's a solid film. So that's my
Yeah, fair enough. Just processing all that. Just that
yeah
was a lot, but yeah, I think that was I think that's fair. It is hard when a movie is a sequel to judge it as its own film without necessarily trying to draw a comparison with the previous film, even if it's like mostly a completely different set of characters. Like you're still going to
yeah.
compare it. Like
Yeah, I think the thing that a sequel should definitely embrace its predecessor, but it needs to expand on it in an organic way, and not use it as a crutch, but it should use it as like a sort of as like a springboard for new ideas.
yeah,
You know, whereas this film, it feels as a film on its own, it's really well put together, but as a sequel, it just feels really odd to me, and I think I'm drawing all these comparisons, and I think just the conflict in that first film of Maximus and Joaquin Phoenix character. I forget his name, but for me, the performances in that first film, are so strong, and the character conflicts and the dynamics are so laid and interesting, especially with Joaquin Phoenix. As a villain, he is entitled, he is spoiled, he is despicable, but you do understand where he comes from. That you don't sympathise with him, but you see why he does what he does, and there is like an emotional anchor to what he does, and he's a very multi-layered character, but you still absolutely hate him, Whereas the new villains in this film are just kind of like, they're just kind of silly goosters and just kind of, they're a bit, I don't know. It just doesn't quite feel as polished as the first film was for me. And I hate to keep bringing up the first film, but as I say, with a sequel, it's all but inevitable that you will compare it to what came before.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Do you have any final notes on the film?
Not really. I think it's I say it's a decent film, but well put together. I mean, I love the music. I love the spectacle of it. I love all the action, the violence and whatnot. It's an entertaining watch as its own epic blockbuster. But it is more just the elements of why is it a Gladiator sequel? Why are we returning to this story that seemed pretty open and shut? The end of the first one when Maximus walks along the grasslands and is reunited, 6 feet under.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'd probably give it overall a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's bad, as I say. It's good, but it's not one that I've thought about loads since watching it. And that's also something I do always consider, like, how does the film age in your mind? Do you think back on it quite fondly? Do you not think on it at all? Or the more you think about it, the worse it gets? I think that's always something I like to consider when I, check out a film.
Yeah, that's fair. I was actually just about to ask what you would give out of 10. We're on the same wavelength here today. I think for me, also a 7, to be fair.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 7.5. Because it's not necessarily my type of film, because I don't necessarily watch that many like historical actions and whatever, like you mentioned, that kind of genre.
Yeah.
That's not usually something I delve into, but I did enjoy it. It's just the case of I don't think I would necessarily go and watch it again for a while, because it feels like a movie that doesn't necessarily need to be rewatched.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Because I think for me, part of enjoyment of a movie is if I want to rewatch it. Like certain
that's definitely
like,
true. Like, if you can go back to it constantly and not get bored of it,
yeah,
I think that's
like
for example, like Wicked. I know we kind of mentioned that, but I even though that's a long film, I would happily go and see that again because there was so much there to enjoy and bask in. That it's like, yeah, I would happily go and watch it again. And there's a few films that I could say from this year that I would. Some of the Inside Out 2 I'd rewatch again probably. Even Deadpool and Wolverine, I'd be happy to rewatch that again.
I mean, I saw that like 3 times at cinema this year.
I haven't watched it that many times, but you get the point. If you are drawn back to a film, and not necessarily not just rewatching it, but also thinking back on it, I think that has merit. But with Gladiator 2, I'm not sure. But even the first film, if it's ever played on TV and one, and when you sort of like part way through a film on TV and you like channel surfing and you flick it on and whenever Gladiators, the original one, whenever that's on, I've often just sort of like kept on watching it, because I'm that engaged by it,
Oh yeah, interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have to take more out of the film. I think I've said everything I was going to say on it, and then 7.5 out of 10. Wouldn't necessarily watch it for a while, maybe in a couple of years. But overall, enjoyable. I think it might get some Oscar nominations because there was a lot of good stuff in there. But
Definitely some technical stuff. It will get.
Yeah, and possibly some acting ones as well. I think.
Maybe I could see that.
I think possibly they might throw one for Denzel because I do think he performed pretty well there. But
I need to watch more Denzel Washington films. To be fair.
Yeah, he's done some really good stuff actually. I've seen quite a few of his films now.
But I definitely need to check out some more of his films. But is that all we got on Gladiator 2?
Yeah, we're on to part 3, and we get to start celebrating the festivities of December with some Christmas discussions. So let's open this up with the question that I think everyone kind of comes back to every year. We're going to settle this definitively, and what we say goes, and if the viewers don't like it, too bad. Is Die Hard a Christmas film?
Yes.
Why?
Because it is. Move on.
Okay, but I think it is. I mean, obviously, it's set Christmas,
just because it's an
Christmas
action film doesn't mean it can't be also a Christmas film. Like,
exactly.
It's about going home for the holidays and family. So you've got a thing there. It's set around Christmas time. You've got Christmas music in there. You've got a Christmas tree. You've got a Christmas jumper. You've got him writing "ho ho ho" on it.
Now
I could have very easily made a joke out of that, but I'm not going to.
It's ultimately it's the question of where do we then draw the line on what is or isn't a Christmas film? Because when you could go further into say Batman Returns is a Christmas film. You could, Christmas. Yeah. You could say Iron Man 3 is a Christmas film. You could say Harry Potter 1 is a Christmas film.
There's a couple of James Bond films that I could definitely mention are Christmas films, like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, set at Christmas. Blofeld literally says "Merry Christmas 007," whilst getting up a Christmas tree. And then there's another one with Pierce Brosnan, "The World Is Not Enough," where the main Bond girl is literally called Christmas Jones, and the final line of the film, as they're making out, is Bond saying, "I thought Christmas only comes once a year." Who don't love a good innuendo? Who don't love a good innuendo? But
What an ending.
what a climax!
Oh, I didn't see that coming. Not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Sure you didn't.
oh boy.
But in terms of like the Bond films, though, another element of like Christmas films is often nostalgia. So I know in the UK, like Bond films are played all the time on TV and whatnot. So people are nostalgic to certain films that they watch around Christmas time. So I have some like that. So for example, Casablanca, an iconic film, not a Christmas film as such, but it's often played all the time around Christmas. I always see it around, and I often associate it with that season. I don't know, and even something like Cars, Pixar's Cars. It's a film that I'm really nostalgic towards, and I've made it a bit of a tradition every December to rewatch it in the past few years.
Oh yeah, my dad has a similar thing with Lord of the Rings. I think like the second film was released around Christmas or something, and he saw it in the cinema then. So my dad likes Lord of the Rings as kind of Christmas films.
Yeah.
And I think in the first one, the Fellowship starts their journey on the 25th of December. So let's call it a Christmas film.
Well, yeah, yeah.
It's,
a lot of people are trying to look for some expensive jewelry around Christmas, so
How about the one ring to rule them all? Who needs 5 golden rings when you've got the one ring?
The one ring to... Yeah, no, yeah. It'll rule every bloke's bank account.
We've answered the question then. It's a Christmas film if it mentions Christmas. Boom. Done.
Yes.
Next.
There we go.
So we've last time we set the task of picking 3 Christmas films to discuss. I won't let you start this one with whatever you've got first. I think we'll alternate them. And,
yeah, we'll do that. So,
yeah,
I've kind of gone with a bit of a theme here. So I didn't want to go for like the obvious ones, like It's a Wonderful Life, or Home Alone, or Elf, or whatever, because people have talked about those to death at this point. So the 3 that I've picked here, they're all films post 2010. They're more recent films that I wouldn't say have necessarily gone down as... They're sort of Christmas classics, but I think they will take a bit more time. Give them a few more years, and I think they will definitely become kind of, staple classics and whatnot. So yeah, I wanted to kind of shed some light on some of these more recent ones that I think you should check out if you still haven't already. So first one actually came out last year. Got a lot of awards attention. Got nominated for Best Picture last year, and actually won, I think, an Oscar for the performance category. And it is The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti, Divine John Randolph, who she won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for this film. And I watched it finally, and it's absolutely amazing. And even though I prefer Oppenheimer, in terms of like the Oscars race, this is probably a close second of the films that came out last year, I would say.
Okay, interesting. I haven't seen that one, but I've heard of it.
I'd highly recommend it. So basically, The Holdovers, it's about this. It's set around like the 1970s, and it's set at this boarding school in America. And you've got this grumpy teacher played by Paul Giamatti, he plays a character called Paul, really stretching his range there. I shouldn't make fun of him because he did an amazing job, but basically he plays a really grumpy, crotchety teacher who all the students and staff hate and whatnot. And he has to look after the boarding school over Christmas. And it also follows him. It follows one of the students, Angus, who's been left behind at the boarding school over Christmas because of like family things. And also you've got the cook, Mary, who played by Divine John Randolph, who has recently lost her son in Vietnam. So as I say, it's set around the early 70s. So they're all kind of they kind of like make like a found family. They kind of form a little family unit, the 3 of them. And ultimately, it's not a very complicated film. It's quite a simple film, but it's really sincere in what it sets out to achieve. The kind of found family, its earnestness, and its its earnestness. I think it really resonates, and the bonds that form between these 3 characters and the things that you learn about them and the layers that appeal back. It doesn't try to tell you the emotion. It just shows you events and scenarios of these characters that they're in, and the emotional reaction just comes to you, And it's quite heavy as well. It's quite a heavy film, particularly with Paul and Angus. They are both very down characters. They've got real troubles. Oh, actually, no, all three of them and whatnot. They've all got a lot going on for them. They're really like people who are struggling. But there's also a great sense of humor, a pretty like dark sense of humor at points. And kind of it's like a black comedy, I would say. But it's got a great sense of humor that it makes it such a blast to watch, but it's such a fun film. And also, I think the real cherry on top is as I said, it's set in the 70s, but it's also made as if it were a film from the 70s or 80s. Like a kind of, you can imagine someone like Spielberg or Rob Zemeckis making this film. It has a lot of the kind of retro aesthetics, obviously the setting and the costumes and whatnot, but even like the filmmaking, like the editing, the dissolves and the wipes across the screen, or a lot of the long shots that are held, or like the zoom ins. There are a lot of very retro, old school filmmaking techniques that make it feel like an old school film, and it's just like a cherry on top, and really creates this vibe of sincerity, like an old school throwback, and it becomes a classic, a modern classic, I would say. It's a beautiful little film that I think anybody can enjoy.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to check that one out. It might be next year though, because like I said, I've barely had any time to watch the classics this year. So
That's fair, but I think I'd highly recommend it. I hope this is like the latest in a long line of like new, a long line of Christmas classics. Hopefully, I'd like this to be like the latest in a long line of classics and whatnot. And having just been like starting uni and whatnot, it kind of does resonate a little bit more, as well.
yeah.
Some of the dynamics of the characters and whatnot, it does resonate. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we do need more modern classics. There aren't that many anymore. All the classics.
See, that's what I've tried to go for with mine. But the Holdovers, I think, is definitely the latest in that sort of tradition.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the first one on my list, initially I was going to do my three favourite Christmas movies, but then I thought about what you said about just repeating points that the audience will have heard so many times from other people if it's like a popular movie. So I've changed it a bit to more reflect your idea of newer movies.
Yeah.
But ultimately, two movies haven't changed. Only one of them has.
All right.
And so I threw out Muppets Christmas Carol. We love Muppets Christmas Carol, but
I
actually
almost
people
went
have
with that,
talked
to be
about
fair,
it a
before I
lot.
went with my whole theme of like modern films. But I do love Muppets Christmas Carol.
It is brilliant. But I'm going to change it in favour of a movie that I think came out in 2022. Might be 21, don't quote me.
Yeah.
Starring David Harbour, who was in Stranger Things.
I know this one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know this one.
It's Violent Night.
I haven't seen it, but I
love
know,
this
I know, I know. Obviously, what it is. It's basically like it's a basically Die Hard on steroids, isn't it?
It's a combination of Die Hard, but instead of in like a corporate building, it's in a rich family's mansion, and then with a few elements of Home Alone mixed in there as well. But also featuring David Harbour as Santa Claus, absolutely battering everybody with a sledgehammer called Skull Crusher. So it's just I want that added. I want that added to the mythology of Santa Claus, that he has a sledgehammer. Let's just put it out there. I think that's fun. But it's a really fun movie. Like, yeah, it takes the Die Hard formula, right? A lot of action movies take that formula, but I think it does enough to feel original, and I think it's just really fun. Like, if you like those kind of really violent movies as well, like, you'll enjoy it. Like, I think there's a lot of really fun things about it. It's fun seeing like a completely kind of different interpretation of Santa Claus. That's just like he's had enough. Like, he's done with everything. And next thing you know, he's gone into this house and there's terrorists holding the place up. So he's just like, oh, well, here we go. And then he starts getting all the toys out the sack and using them as weapons. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of fun with it. And I loved it when I first saw it. It was really funny. It was just like, it felt different despite having these similarities. Like, it felt like its own original thing. And ultimately, I need to watch it again this year because I haven't watched it yet. But that's one we watch every year now. That's that's a new classic.
I do want to check that out, and I think your point of like it's fun. It's trying to find these new films that do take classic formulas and do something new and fresh with them. I think Holdovers does that with that kind of the feel good Christmas film. Violent Night does that with obviously the kind of mythology of Santa. Actually, my next film kind of does something similar, but it is more friendly. It is more like it's an animated film, but it kind of does play around with classic Santa mythology, but gives it a unique twist and whatnot. So this is I watched this actually yesterday. My next film here, and it's
Okay.
from 2019. It's a Netflix original animated film called Klaus.
I've heard of that one. I didn't see
Yeah,
it,
it's
but I've
actually
heard
got
of it.
J.K. Simmons as the Klaus or Santa Claus character. So if you didn't like Red One, watch Klaus instead. But so Klaus is about this postman, Jesper, played by Jason Schwartzman, and he's kind of like this sort of like it's a bit like Emperor's New Groove. He's like a spoiled rich kid who kind of has it all and doesn't really work hard, and then his dad sends him off to this abandoned village, where it's like, oh, try and become a postman here, and whatnot. Where there's like where can you actually send post letters and whatnot. So he sets up shop there, and he starts to meet all the townsfolk who are kind of like against each other. They're all like rival gangs and whatnot. And through all his through what he does and how he meets the Klaus character, and sort of delivers presents to people and whatnot, he kind of reunites the kids, and that kind of like has a knock on effect with the the families and whatnot. There's a great line in the film. It's like one act of goodwill sparks another, along those lines, and that's kind of what he does and whatnot. But yeah, it's a really fun like modern Christmas film. It's first of all gorgeous animation style. It's kind of like obviously it's a 3D animated film, but it's got like this 2D art style that's really distinct and really gorgeous, and like the landscapes has a kind of very a lot of vivid imagery and whatnot, and it also has it's not a horror film, but it's got like kind of like gothic moody imagery, and it creates a really great atmosphere. It's quite atmospheric and really effective and whatnot, and it's like the stuff in like the abandoned village and in the woods and whatnot, but also the art direction, how it tells the story, the colours and the lighting, how it reflects the mood of certain points of the story. So when people are miserable and dark and whatnot, the lighting reflects that. But when Jesper and Klaus, when they sort of start to bring more joy to the kids, and with their with the presents and whatnot, and when the town starts to improve and whatnot, the lighting gets brighter and more vibrant and colourful, and it's just a really great art direction. But overall, it's just a really sincere story, and some really clever twists, because like on the classic sort of Santa story, because Klaus is sort of this lumberjack kind of character who lives out in the cabin, and he makes toys. It was like from his past, which I won't spoil for anyone who wants to go and watch it. But it's like he kind of it gives them out and whatnot, and a lot of the kind of traditions. So stuff like the sleigh flying in the air. That's kind of like explained away with kind of realistic logic, and it's kind of puts these twists on these classic ideas and sort of mythologies and whatnot.
Yeah, it's interesting. I might have to check that one out. I remember, when you're on Netflix and you hover over a movie, it'll show you like a little clip of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember, I at least watched the little clip of it that it showed when scrolling through Netflix, and it did look quite nice. But I
It's a
didn't
really
watch it because
distinct
there's
like
only
visual
so
style,
much
isn't it?
time. But I think I'll check that out since you've pointed it out. Whenever I get time, it might be next year's Christmas, because there's only such a window that you can like that the society will let you watch Christmas films for, and like
Yeah,
this
it's
one's
not the
just
best.
swamped. But I will keep a note of that and try and check that out, because it's like when you like see a new movie, it's like you're not sure, but then someone says it's good, and it's like, okay, I'll watch it. So I'll keep a note on that one.
I'd recommend
Um,
it. Yeah, I've had people recommend it to me past few years, and it's like, yeah, now I've finally watched it, and it's really good. It's really good.
yeah. Next one on my list is a 2017 movie. I watched it just the other day. I think it was on Friday evening.
Yeah.
I watched it again. This is one I've been watching every year since it came out in 2017. This has become a new classic, and this is actually my second favorite Christmas film. It has a pretty stacked cast, actually. Let's see if you can guess it off the cast. Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg,
Oh,
Mel
is it
Gibson.
who? Sorry.
Mel Gibson, he's in it. John Lithgow, and everyone's
It's not.
favorite, John
Was it? Is it
Cena.
Daddy's Home?
It's Daddy's Home too. Yeah, yeah, Daddy's Home too. I absolutely love it. The first film is just kind of like it's an okay comedy and whatever, but the second film is a Christmas film, and really improves on the first one with everything. So the base of the first film is um, there's a family, there's the kids, they've got a stepdad, but then the dad comes home and wants to be part of the family again. And
Yeah.
the idea is this whole kind of uh, relationship between the dad and the stepdad. Mark Wahlberg's the dad; he's kind of like a serious macho dad. And Will Ferrell's kind of the very sensitive stepdad, who means well but usually tries a little too hard. And
He's a goofy man.
they have their kind of conflict and whatever. The second film builds on that by bringing in their fathers. You've got Mark Wahlberg's character. His dad is Mel Gibson, who's even more like tough as nails than he is, and is constantly
Oh,
trying to cause problems between Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. And then you've got Will Ferrell's dad, who's John Lithgow, who's even more sensitive than Will Ferrell is. And so
oh
you've
right.
got all four of these characters, their families, they're all the grandkids, and they all go on this vacation to for Christmas. They get an Airbnb, they get a huge log cabin staying together. And with that many different characters and different dads under the same roof, like there's a lot that goes on there. But it's one of the funnier movies I've seen. Like even just out of comedies in general, it's one of the funniest movies I've seen. Like I know like every scene as it's happening now because I've seen it so many times, but I still get a good laugh out of it every time. There's so much to love with it. There's a lot of there's a lot of light-hearted comedy. There's a lot of I think the ending's really nice as well, which I won't spoil. I think it's just got a really nice ending to it. Uh, when you watch it in a cinema as well, like you'll get it once anyone watches it. But when you're at the cinema as well, it gives you it's like a interesting commentary on people who go to cinema and being around loads of different people and not really necessarily talking to each other. But I think overall it's a really nice Christmas film. It is one that's become an absolute classic for me. And it does star John Cena. We got to get him in the episode. But,
We got John Cena in the episode.
we got John Cena.
Woo! Get the graphics up. Get the graphics on screen.
Get the graphics on screen. You have John Cena flying around.
Have John Cena and Nick Cage in the Teletubbies.
This has been your episodic John Cena moment.
The token John Cena cameo.
Every episode now. This is our John Cena
Wouldn't it be so
moment.
cool if we got John Cena? If we actually got John Cena on the podcast?
Imagine.
Could that be so sick?
Oh man, if I ever come across him one day.
Yeah, can you be on a podcast? Yeah. So hello, I'm Dan. This is Mr. L, and we've got our special guest here, John Cena. New movie, Barbie 2, The Merman.
Oh man, that'd be crazy.
That'd be sick. That'd be sick.
No, that'd be absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
If I ever did see him though, I'd ask him to record a little bit just to clip into an episode. just like I'm John Cena and I endorse this movie or something. I'm John Cena. Listen to this podcast. I do as well.
Please do that. That's brilliant. We got to do that.
If I ever see him.
We got to do that.
But no, overall, really brilliant movie. I love everything about it. The chemistry between all the characters is really great. I just think it for me it's a new Christmas classic for me, and it's really underrated. Like it just really flew under the radar for a lot of people. I think it's one that absolutely warrants a watch. Like it's up there with the others for me.
Yeah, that's good then. That's good. So I've got my final film here, and I know it's one that you have seen before.
All right, go for it.
Because I know we don't see. I don't think we see.
I know what it
eye
is
to eye on
already.
this
I
film.
know what it is already.
Oh god.
I know what it is already. It's Deck the Halls, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's Deck the Halls, isn't it?
Well, no, because that came out in 2006, and I said all these are post 2010.
Okay, no, but I think I know what you've got in mind.
So this for me is the other two I only watched this past week. I've only just watched them, but this one I've rewatched this one past few years, and it's become a staple of my Christmas viewing. This has, and it's genuinely not just one of my favorite Christmas films, but one of my favorite films. Generally, would probably fall in like my top 50 of all time, and that is the Aardman animation film Arthur Christmas. I know you've seen this one.
Yeah, I knew it.
I knew it, and I know you're not that big on this film, which is shocking, frankly.
I mean, it's just like I don't know. I mean, I like it, but it doesn't feel necessarily that next level of Christmas classic for me. It's just one that I'll throw maybe every other year.
I think I was wondering though because I tend to rewatch this one like Christmas Eve, and I was wondering why is it that this one of all the films because I don't rewatch a lot of the other ones like Home Alone and Elf. I don't rewatch them really annually. I've seen them obviously, but I don't go back to them. But what is it that draws me back to Arthur Christmas? And I think what it is that yes, as a kid you love it, and for me as a Brit, and when this came out 2011, so when I was very young as a kid then, so the environment that it presents in the film is incredibly nostalgic to me. When you have the old co-op sign with the green background, for example.
Yeah.
And like the quaint English village and like the red post box and all that sort of stuff and a lot of the Britishisms about it. It's Aardman. It's the same people as Wallace and Gromit, so it's got that British charm to it. I love all the characters like Arthur. He's such a lovable guy, and James McAvoy is great in the part. You've got Hugh Laurie as Steve, his brother, who's the more tech whizzy kind of one, who's kind of has some conflict there. You've got Santa, and then you've got Grand Santa, who's absolutely hilarious. I think it's Bill Nighy who plays Grand Santa.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. But Grand Santa's so funny, and you got Bryony the Elf. It's Ashley Jensen, who I love, is a great actress. If you've seen Extras with Ricky Gervais, she's in that. But yeah, a load of these like recognisable British faces or British voice talent. There's so many great characters. I love the concept of the whole Christmas again. Taking a classic story, so the Santa operation, but it gives it a modern twist. It's like, well, how does he get around the whole world? Well, he's got an army of elves to help him out, and he's got like an invisible spaceship. And it's such a clever, creative concept. There's so many great sequences, like the opening, sort of opening sequence where they deliver all the presents. It's such a fun hook into the film, and it presents some interesting ideas of like sort of technology versus tradition and kind of like generational. Family issues and whatnot, kind of the divide of them. And then you've got Arthur, who kind of doesn't fit into any of that. But he brings everyone together. And I think the reason that I come back to this film is because, yeah, like if you're a kid, you enjoy all the fun, slapstick and the comedy, but there's so much heart to it, with how like sincere Arthur is. He has so much passion and joy. He's like such a lovable character. He's a bit clumsy, but it's just horrible seeing how everybody kind of dismisses him, kind of like patronise him a bit, they kind of think not very much of him. And how Arthur, he registers that, it's not just a case of like he's oblivious. He takes it all in, He hears all these things that people say about him, like, oh Arthur, what a bother, and what a puzzle, I think is what one of the Santas say. And he registers all that. It's not like he's oblivious. And I like the fact I love that fact, and it just makes it so powerful. And the way he reconnects with everybody, it genuinely does make me cry. It legit does. I love it to bits. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that one then. And then so that's your Christmas Eve film then, because I think everyone has one that they watch every year on Christmas Eve specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's
my
definitely
Christmas
mine.
Eve one was. I think my Christmas Eve one was Muppets Christmas Carol. To be fair, that's like been my every year Christmas Eve. But usually I fit multiples in on Christmas Eve, and one that I've started watching on Christmas Eve more recently is a Christmas film that it doesn't fit your criteria of last 15 years. We're throwing it back to 1996 with this one, but
is this
uh,
does this feature Sinbad by any chance?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
It's Jingle All the Way, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I adore this movie. This is my favorite Christmas movie. I think initially it was a film that I just found really funny, but I didn't necessarily think it was my favorite. But as years have gone by, I've learned to love it more and more. And every year I kind of pick up on new things with the movie. It's like, when they're like in a kids movie, there'll be like jokes that only the adults will really get and the kids won't.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like when you go on with years, you'll pick up on the jokes that you didn't get the first time, but you get now. And after enough years passed, I realized that Jingle All the Way is just objectively my favorite Christmas movie. I love everything about it. I mean, the whole premise of this mad rush to get the most hottest selling toy for your kid on the day before Christmas and it being impossible is just like that is just like that's an absolute staple of Christmas in itself, isn't it?
Definitely, I think it's a good thing to explore. Obviously, more in a more commercial environment that we live in nowadays, where
Yeah.
that's kind of a
I think
a
as
big part
well
of Christmas.
is just that Arnold Schwarzenegger is really funny when he wants to do comedies. There's something about him that's just absolutely hilarious to me, and Sinbad as well is just brilliantly funny in this movie. And the two of them combined, just like their entire relationship with this movie of like this rivalry that they've got to try and get the last Turbo Man is just it's so funny, and like I can quote so many things in this movie at just any time. Like it's such a quotable movie to me. I just like it is a little dated in like the final act. There's some dated effects and whatever. It really shows its age of being from '96, but otherwise it
Hmm.
holds up really well. And I think there's just a lot of things to love about it. And it's got the kid who played Anakin in Phantom Menace. He was in it. It's got oh, what's his name? Um, I've got to look it up. One of the guys in it, he was in The Simpsons. Troy McClure. He plays a guy called Tennis, who's like constantly like overbearingly nice, and it gets on Arnold's nerves, which is quite funny. Jingle All the Way. Yep. So we got Arnold as the main character, obviously. We got Sinbad. Phil Hartman, that was his name. He's in this. Um,
Oh, Phil.
Phil
Where
Hartman. Yeah, that was his name. But
what do I know him from something? I know him from something.
yeah, I think overall it's just like it's one of those films where like every element of it just works really well. Like all the characters are great. Like
Hmm.
there are like certain like recurring jokes in it that are funny. Like there's a recurring bit where Arnold is constantly causing like problems for this one police officer, like in his rush to do what he's doing. Like at one point earlier on, like in the movie, like he knocks over the policeman's bicycle. Later on, he accidentally makes the policeman spill the coffee on himself and whatever. It's all sorts of things. But there is just a lot of like extremely funny moments of this film, and I think it all comes together quite nicely. And in the end, there is obviously there's a nice message for it all. It's I think one of the funniest bits is that there's like this post credit scene of it's not a huge spoiler or anything, but there's a funny
There's a
post
post
credit
credit scene
scene
in
of
it.
yeah, there's a post credit scene, and
Oh, I missed that.
basically the post credit scene is that Arnold's wife says that oh, it's really great you went all this effort to get this present for your kid. It makes me wonder, what did you get for me? And then it just pans to Arnold doing this shocked face because he's completely forgotten about getting her anything.
Of course he did. Of course
It's
he did.
I think it's a really funny film to me. I really love it. It's one of the films that like I have like a really long list of films I will watch every year in the Christmas season. Jingle All
Yeah.
the Way is a film I will watch twice every year in the Christmas
Oh wow.
season. I'll watch it at the very start, like when we're putting the tree up, which this year was really early. We did it on like the 23rd of November because
That's Doctor Who Day.
yeah, but so we did it quite. So I watched it then, and I'm probably gonna watch it again on Christmas Eve
Oh
because we
yeah,
usually fit a
that's fair.
few in on Christmas Eve,
Thing is, I
like
should say
two
I
or
have
three.
seen Jingle All the Way. It was years ago now. I have seen it though. It's one of those films where like all the elements. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jake Lloyd from the Phantom Menace, and Sinbad in a Christmas film about Turbo Man, this hot new toy that they have to all get. It's such a bonkers premise, and I haven't seen it in donkey's years. I remember thinking it was fun, like dumb fun, when I was like 12, but I'd be interested to like revisit it now that I'm a bit older, to see how it. I don't want to say see how it would hold up because I don't know if I don't know if I think it would necessarily hold up, but I'd be interested to see what I think of it now. I would genuinely be interested in that.
Yeah, I think it is worth giving it another watch because I even me just watching it every year, like I've noticed more and more each year, and there's a lot of differences to it. And like there was kind of this change from thinking, oh, it's just dumb fun to thinking this is just a really good Christmas movie. I mean, yeah, it's a bit bonkers at times. I mean, there's a whole black market mall cop Santa situation at one point. But but there's a lot of completely insane things. I mean, the finale involves a jetpack, so you tell me. But I think it is bonkers, but there's a lot of realism to parts of it of like the mad rush at Christmas to get your kid the
Hmm.
one thing he wants, and I think there are a lot of nice, like more grounded beats to it amidst all the absolute chaos of the film. But it is absolutely my favorite. And there was a point where it switched from being dumb fun to being this is Christmas film. But
This is cinema.
this is the Christmas film of all time. But
This is the Christmas film of all time.
this is the
I,
Christmas film.
yeah, it's like as I've not watched it in years, but that is an interesting pick that I did not
Yeah.
see coming.
It all comes full circle. We had one with John Cena. This one had Sinbad. It all comes back.
Yeah, it's like poetry. It's sort of it rhymes, you know. It's all interconnected. It's all these running gags of Nick Cage and Sinbad and John Cena. This is like the all-star cast of the Double Feature podcast.
If only I could have talked about like The Family Man, because Nick Cage was in that one. That's a Christmas film.
What other? There's got to be some other like Nick Cage Christmas films, surely.
He did a Christmas film called Trapped in Paradise, but I haven't seen it yet because it's not on any streaming or anything. But
Have you not seen a Nick Cage film? Come on, have you not seen it?
it's on my Christmas list, so I might get it. It's
I've actually got an idea for a part 3.
oh yeah.
For like a future episode, because I know it's Nick Cage's birthday in January. So
It is.
for the January episode, we could do a 3 Nick Cage films.
I'm sold. Let's do it.
Let's do that. So that can be next episode, because it will be next episode in January. So
Yeah.
we could actually do that.
So next episode, you're telling me is going to have Sonic 3 and Nicolas Cage. This is my dream episode right now.
That's brilliant. That's actually brilliant.
Oh man, but I think one more thing I want to cover in part 3 today is obviously we discussed the Die Hard Christmas movie thing. We've discussed 3 Christmas movies ourselves. There's another Christmas question that comes around, and people always have such different answers on. It's almost akin to who's the best Batman. Everyone always has like a different thing on it, and it's who's the best Ebenezer Scrooge?
Ooh.
It's a question whether it's like, because obviously like there's been a lot of different portrayals of Ebenezer Scrooge, and they've all got different strengths to them. I mean, you could go back to the 50s. You got Alistair Sims. You got George C. Scott in '84. Michael Caine in The Muppets. If you want to go adjacent, you've got Bill Murray in Scrooged. You got Jim Carrey in the Disney Christmas Carol. Yeah, there's so much to choose from, really, to
That's
pick like a
true, yeah.
best one. If we just say strictly Christmas Carol variants, so we don't talk about Scrooged or anything, or
Yeah.
I think out of those ones, it's just like, how do you choose between 4 very different but all quite good performances in their own right?
I still haven't seen the older ones. I haven't seen the Alistair Sim one. I haven't seen the George C. Scott one yet. I will check them out. I would definitely rule out Jim Carrey because I do not like that version of Christmas Carol because I just don't like the animation style.
Oh, okay,
It's
it's
just
just
really
a style thing.
Sorry?
It's just a style thing.
It's what?
Just style. It's just the art style. Is that it?
Yeah, but it's creepy. It's just I just don't enjoy
Slightly
that film
uncanny.
generally. I just no. So I do admire how Michael Caine approached it because he approached it as if he was playing it in like a serious play or whatever, but he's surrounded by Muppets.
There is something really funny about that. There's all these Muppet characters.
It's fun. It's funny. But I
and
think there's
he's
something
playing it
admirable
dead
about
serious.
how genuine the performance is, even though he's in the Muppets Christmas Carol. And in fact, that's just that film in general, how sincere that film is.
I think that's what makes it as good as it is, as well, is that he does take it really seriously, and it doesn't feel like too stupid or anything.
He's not like
it
winking
feels
at the
very-
audience every 5 seconds. It's like, oh, look how
It's
stupid
weirdly
this is. You know,
grounded.
it's not like winking at the audience. It's actually taking it seriously and
It's-
treating it with
yeah.
respect. I think, and that's something, I
Yeah,
I
think that's
appreciate a lot
really
about
nice
his
about
portrayal.
it. Ultimately, I think for me, the best performance of Scrooge possibly is George C. Scott in '84. It is a really good iteration of it. But I think there are strengths to all of them. But for a long time, I would have said Michael Caine, because just something about how well he does that role, despite the amount of like ridiculous things going on around him at times. But
Yeah, I think I will check out the George C. Scott one soon because I know my parents love that one, so I will check that out.
yeah, that one's pretty solid. I think that one, and I think the '50s one's quite good. The '50s one's pretty accurate to the book as well. Like it's the '50s and '80s ones are the more like book accurate adaptations, really.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to love about all of them, really. I mean, even with the Jim Carrey one, if you don't necessarily like the visual aspect of that film, I think just the way his mannerisms and the way he delivers his lines are really good in that one. I would love to see him do that live action.
That'd be interesting. That would be interesting.
But yes, I think final verdict probably George C. Scott is my pick.
I mean, I can't really say, but because obviously I haven't seen it, but yeah, I'll go with Kane, but it could definitely change for me.
Let us know in the comments below, listeners, which Scrooge is the best Scrooge in your opinion, because we do want to know. But watch one person say Scrooge McDuck.
That's respectable.
But
Still probably better than Jim Carrey. Hey.
But I think that covers it for the episode. I think that's everything on part 3.
Our Christmas extravaganza, you know.
Yeah, indeed. So I might even put this out on Christmas. Actually, I'm not sure, but
That'd be quite
because
fun.
I'm going to need a bit longer to edit with how busy I am these days. So I might put this out on Christmas actually.
That could be a fun little video to have on Christmas, yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's it. So next episode, we'll discuss whatever's come out between now and then. I'm sure that Red One I'll be able to discuss on there. I'm probably going to see Craven the Hunter, but I have very low expectations for that.
I think I will pass.
I wouldn't blame you, to be honest. I don't blame you. And then we'll discuss Sonic 3 and we'll discuss Nick Cage. And that'll be a blast. But,
We gotta do that. We gotta
that'll be a
definitely do that.
blast. Definitely. But anyway, thanks for watching or listening at home. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and do subscribe to myself and Danny over at DCS Media. Link to his channel in the description as usual.
And with all that said and done, you take care. Let us know all your favourite Christmas movies, thoughts on Gladiator 2, thoughts on Wicked, thoughts on John Cena and the Teletubbies or whatever we talked about in this episode. And we will see you in the 6th episode next year. So, happy Christmas, happy Christmas, Happy New Year, all that good stuff, and you look after yourselves. Take care.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Alright, bye.
Ta-da.